Hello and welcome. My name is RP. Today I will be teaching you basics and fundamentals of SAS software. Points will be covered in this presentation are Introduction to SAS system, SAS programming environment, basics of SAS programs, execution of SAS dataset, importing raw data using infile statement, a few dataset and options and statements, merging two datasets using a merge statement. Well, what is SAS? The name indicates Statistical Analysis Systems, which developed by a SAS institute in US. In early years of 1970, SAS designed for statistical analysis, and then later SAS developed many components which enable you to perform the following tasks: data entry, report writing, statistical and mathematical analysis, quality control, application development, etc. So SAS not only designed for statistics, and statistical analysis systems is not an acronym for SAS anymore. Some of the SAS components, which includes base SAS, SAS stats, SAS graphs, etc. The most popular SAS components are SAS BI, DI, and base SAS. Basics about SAS. SAS composed of three windows. One is program editor, where you write and submit your programs, a log window where display SAS messages which indicates errors that may be in your program, an output window where results appear after submitting your program. If you see the program editor in Windows environment, it just looks like this, where you can write your programs and execute your programs. And log window where a SAS will give you the information related to the submitted programs. And an output window where you can print your reports or you can see the dataset values. If you see the real SAS programming environment, it is just look like this. So this is a program editor where you can write your codes and you can execute your programs by using this button. And this is a log window where you can see the information related to the submitted programs. And output window where you can print your data sets. On the other hand, there is two more windows called results window, explorer window. In explorer window, we have different components. In the important components are libraries. In libraries contains the source data set, or it stores the data set in permanent library or temporary library. Coming to the presentation. Basics of SAS dataset variables and observation. SAS expects your data to be in a special form, which is called a SAS format. Before applying any analysis, you have to convert your raw data, non-standard data, into SAS standard datasets. And if you see, the SAS dataset is composed with variables and observations. In a SAS, rows are called as observations and columns are called as a variable. If you see the example of SAS dataset in here we have 4 variables and 6 observations. The 4 variables are ID, name, HT, weight, present vertically. And 6 observations are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 present as horizontally. So in SAS we have 2 types of variables. One is character variables and one is numeric variables. The name here is a character variable, and remaining ID, HT, and weight are a numeric variable. In a SAS, character missing variable represented by spaces, and in a numeric variable, SAS represent dot as a missing value. So building blocks of SAS program. SAS program constructed from 2 building blocks. One is data step and one is approx step. A typical SAS program is creating a dataset by using a dataset statement, and then it passed to a proc statement to do the analysis. Basic components of SAS continued. In a data step, it is a statement that can read the data, create and modify the existing data. And whereas in a procedure, it is also a statement, but it performs some statistical analysis method and create and print the reports. If you see the example in here, there is a two components. One is data component and one is proc component. In data component, we are creating one data set using two variables, and in a proc component, it printing the created data set called a distance. So you can use data step or proc step based on your requirement. If you see the existing code, data step is look like this. This is a basic data step. Here I'm creating one data set called class using one of the data set present in SAS help library. So when I executed this program, so I will see the information related to my executed program, and a data set will be created in work library. So this is a typical SAS dataset look like. Here, so it is a variables and those are observations. And whereas in a proc statement, we can output this dataset into output window. So means we are printing this dataset by using procedure. Coming to the presentation. Difference between data step and proc step. Data step begins with a data statement. In a proc step, begin with a proc statement. It read and modify the data, and in proc step, we can perform some specific analysis. And in a data step, we can create a data set, and in a proc step, we can produce a result. And this difference is not meant to imply a proc never create a SAS data set, but some do. And some of the statement in a data set can create a report by using data step. Execution of SAS dataset. Data steps execute line by line and observation by observation. SAS takes a first observation and run all the ways through the data step line by line, and it will output to the output data set. SAS can see one observation at a time. If you see the example in here, there is an input data set and there is a programs, 5 lines program present in a data step. So when you run your code and SAS take the first observation from input data set and it runs the 5 lines and it will output to output data set observation by observation. So which means SAS cannot read all your observation in input data set at a time. Rules for SAS program. Every SAS statement should be end with a semicolon, and a name must be 8 characters or fewer in a length. So some of the names in SAS like file name, reference, or format, in format should be in 8 characters. Or name should be starts with characters or underscore. So you cannot start your variable name or format or in format name with numeric or special characters. Name can contain only letters, numbers and underscores, but there is no special character should be allowed in a SAS names. Rules for SAS program statements. SAS program statements can be in uppercase. You can write your SAS statements either in uppercase or lowercase. You can continue the statement in other line. And you can mention more than one statements in the same line, but it should be separated by the semicolon. Reading data from external file. This is most important step for every SAS programmer to create a data set by using external files like txt, csv. In SAS, we have different statements and procedures to import the non-standard data from external source and create a SAS dataset. If you see, the basic code is just look like this. For instance, I have taken one statement called infile statement to read the .csv file which is present in outside of my SAS environment. If you see, the infile statement is followed by a file specification, options, and host options. A file specification is a path of your file. Options and host options is it will be changed based on your type of file. An input statement can arrange and assign input values to the corresponding SAS variables. It follows a specification and special values called a point controller. In the input statement, you have to mention the variables, those separated by the spaces, and there is a special characters we have to mention. So if you remember, in last presentation I have mentioned in SAS we have two different of variables. One is character variables and one is numeric variable. So whenever you specified any character variable, you should specify $sign along with variable name, because in a SAS understand every variable is a numeric variable. So you have to differentiate the numeric variable and character variable by using $sign. In point controller, it moves the input pointer to the specified line or column in an input buffer. And you can mention informat. It specifies an informat to read the variable values. So this is an example of the infile statement. So if you see, the code is just look like this. Data. So we are creating one data set called a new data using infile statement. In infile statement here, the file specification is this, the path. So which means in C drive we have a .txt file called dat.txt. The .txt is a extension of your file. For text file, which it is .txt. For CSV file, it is .csv. And we have to mention the input statement along with the infile statement. If you see the input statement, there is a two variables called name and age. So name variable is a character variable. That's why we have mentioned a $sign, and age is a numeric variable. So we need not to mention any special characters because SAS understand by default it's a numeric variable. If you see this real SAS environment, so here I'm importing one of the data set called sample underscore data, which is present in one of the folder in my D drive. So in D drive, in raw data folder, I have a data set called sample underscore data.csv, which is it is a CSV file. That's why my option is a delimiter is equal to comma, because CSV file is a comma separated file. That's why I have to mention a comma into a delimiter option. And first observation is 2. Because why I have mentioned first observation is equal to 2, if you open the CSV file, there is a first observation in CSV file is a column names. So my actual data is starts from observation 2. So that's why I have given one option called a first observation. First OBS is equal to 2. So SAS read the data starts from observation 2. So now I'm going to run this code and see what will happen. So if you see the log window, there is information related to your submitted program. So the output data set contains 19 observation and 5 variables. By default, the output data set will be created in work library C. If you see, the output data set is just similar to your .csv file present in the output outside of the SAS environment. So coming to the presentation, so there is a one more statement called a data line statement to create a SAS data set by passing variables and observations in program. So if you see the data line statement example is just look like this. Here I am creating two variables called name, which is character. I have specified a $sign, and age. So here I am passing a values also. So that's why data lines is used to create a data set by passing names and observation in program. So if you see the real SAS environment, so here I am creating one data set using a data line statement. So I'm creating one data set called internal, and I'm passing the variable values programmatically. So here my variables are name, which is character, specified by $, and gender, character variable. And if you see, there is a one more statement called informat statement. So informat statement to specify the informat to read the variables. So if I submit this program, I'll get internal file. It contains 3 variables and 2 observations. So if you see the program here, I have mentioned 3 variables in input statement and 2 observations I'm passing into data line statement. So that's the reason this data set contains 2 observations and 2 variables. Coming to the presentation. Some of other procedures or statements related to the importing external file, those are in file, there are proc import, libname, SQL, pass-through facility, and SAS access. We shall be discussed on regular classes. Merge statement. It joins observation from 2 or more SAS datasets into single observation, which means you can create a dataset from many datasets. So you can join more than one datasets together and you'll get information from different sources. There's 2 types of merging, one-to-one merge and match merge. One-to-one merge. To common variables from several datasets where there is a one-to-one correlation between the observation in each of the datasets. So which means in 2 datasets, if you have a one common variable present in both datasets and it has a one-to-one correlation between observation and observation, it calls one-to-one merging. Before merging the 2 dataset, it should be sort by a common variables by using by statement. So example of the one-to-one merge, if you see in here, there is a 2 dataset called personal and business. In personal and business, we have a one common variable called a name. If you see name variable in both datasets, we have a values called JOE, FRED, and SU. If you see these 3 common observations or names, which is also present in a business dataset. So there is a correlation between a name variable. So my requirement is to create one dataset which contains all information which is present in personal and business. If you see, personal and business has 1, 2, 3, 4 variable information, so that the output dataset should be created with 4 variables called age, eyes, job, and salary from each of the dataset. So we're going to do this task by using a SAS environment. So here I am creating a dataset called personal by passing a name, age, eye variable information, and business dataset, name, job, and salary. And like I mentioned, before merging both datasets, we have to sort the common variables by using proc sort procedure. So this is a merge statement. Here, if you see a merge statement followed by 2 datasets names separated by the spaces. And along with that, I have mentioned by statement, which contains the common variable present in both dataset, which is name. So I'm going to run this dataset. So finally, my output dataset called both has been created from 4 variables called age, eyes, job, and salary. So coming to the presentation, match merge. When there is not an exact one-to-one correlation between the data sets. If you see the match merge example in here, there is a 2 data sets called grade 1, grade 2. In a grade 1 dataset, we have a common variable called ID present in both dataset. And the first observation, the record is matching with the second observation. But if you see a second observation 9, it is not matching with the second observation present in other dataset. So this is called match merging. So there is no exact one-to-one correlation between the observation present in both datasets. So we're going to run this match merge and I'll show you the result how it comes. If you see the program for match merge and merge, both are similar but results are different. So here I'm creating a data set called grade 1 and grade 2, which is exactly as like a data present in the slider. So I'm sorting the data set with a common variable by using proc sort, and then the same procedure what I have applied for one-to-one merging. So here also the same procedure I'm applying for match merge. And if you see the result here, grade underscore both, so there is a missing values present for score 4 and score 3 for observation 9. Because for observation 9, which is present in grade 1, so observation 9, ID ninth variable, which is not present in grade 2 dataset, which means ID 9 doesn't have a score 3 and score 4 information. That is the reason we have a missing values for score 4 and score 3. And if you see the 10th ID value, which is not present in a grade 1, so which means score 1 and score 2 values are not present for ID 10. So that's why score 1 and score 2 having missing value. So this is called one-to-one, match merge. Coming to the presentation. There are variety of procedures or statements in a SAS to combine or append the more than one data sets. Those are proc SQL, joins, subqueries, proc append, set statements, some other types of merge statements. So further details will be discussed in regular classes. SAS functions. What is SAS function? SAS functions perform a computation or a system manipulation on arguments and return the values. So most functions can be used in data step proc report, which means proc step or proc SQL based on a version which the user using. So syntax for the function. So if you see the syntax for the function, here we have to mention the function name. Within a parenthesis, we have to mention arguments, argument 1, 2, 3, separated by the commas. So you can also mention off keyword for this specific functions called sum function. So here variable list will be a variable name or constants or any SAS expression which you are passing. So for instance, I have taken some numeric function to show you one example. So in some functions, if you see the syntax here, so here I am passing, you can pass more than one arguments into some function. So and it will create the results. So this is examples. Here my sum function, I am using sum function to create x1 variable, and it has arguments 4, 9, 3, 8. If you sum this, so it will create a 24 value. And like I mentioned, sum function can only consider the non-missing values. Here I am passing one missing values, but the sum function cannot consider these missing values, and it will give the number of sum value for non-missing arguments. And here I am using of keyword for set of variables. I am passing set of variable by using hyphen x1 to x2. So which means it indicates x1 to x2 is in between. If you have any variables, say for example, I have a variables called x1, x2, x3, x1 to x100. So I no need to mention x1, x2, x3. So by using of class, so I can mention x1 hyphen x100. So it will consider 100 variables and it will give you the sum of 100 variables. If you see in real SAS environment, so here I am creating variable called x1 using sum of 3 2's, which means 6, and x2 sum of 4 missing value 6, it will give you 10 value. So if I run this code, it creates a sum underscore ex dataset. It has 5 variables. If you see, I have created 5 variables, and if you see the x1 value, the sum of 2, 2, 2 or 6, and x2, it won't consider the missing value, and it will create a 10th value, 4 plus 6. And if you see of class x1 to x2, which means 6 plus 10, which is 6 plus 10, which is a 16th. So this is how we can use a sum function. Coming to the presentation, characters as functions. Characters as functions plays a major role in SAS data manipulation. For instance, I have taken substr function, which is a substring function. It replaces the character values in the constants. Substring functions will be used to extract the specific character portion from the character variables. So if you see the syntax is just look like this: substring, argument, and starting position and end position. So argument will be a character variable, and the position, it specifies the starting position where exactly the substring start reading the character value, and n specify number of expressions in the length of substring that will be replaced. So if we see the example of substring function in here, we have a variable called A contains chemotherapy plus a treatment. So my requirement is to consider only chemotherapy from this character constants. So what I do, I have used a substring function, and A is my argument. A has the source information, and the starting position is 1, because I have to read this variable starting from 1, and a number of position is 12. If you count this chemotherapy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which means, so I have to read till 12th positions. That's why my ending positions, the number of characters are 12. So by results, so we'll get a chemotherapy. And there is one more way, like I mentioned, in functions, you can mention a function within a function. So here I have one function called index function, which is used inside the substring function. So index function, basically, it will give you the special characters position or character position present in the argument. So here my special character is plus value. So in index function, it will give you the position of plus value in the character constants. So by running this code, index function will run first, and it will give a 13th value, because if you see plus sign in here, this is a 13th position. So it will give 13th value, and so by subtracting -1, we will get a 12th value, which means it will give you 12th value without specifying 12th value. So by result, will get a chemotherapy. If I run a same example in real SAS environment, so here I'm creating one variable, character variable, which contains chemotherapy plus treatment. And I am creating one more variable called B by using subtracting chemotherapy from 1 to 12th position. And if you see C variable derivation, I am using index function within a substring function, and I'm creating a same variable value as like B. Sorry. So by running this code, there is a one data set called a substring substr underscore exp will be created, and it contains the same value for B and C. Coming to the presentation, there are a variety of functions are available in SAS, and it shall be discussed in regular classes. SAS statements. Definition of SAS statements. SAS statements is series of items that may include keywords, SAS names, special characters, and operators. All statements should be ends with a semicolon. So there are two types of SAS statements. One is a data step or proc step statements, or one is a global statements. Data step or proc step statements, if you run these statements in any of the data or proc statements, it is only applicable for particular data or proc step. And whereas in a global statement, if you apply any global statement which is applicable for all proc or data step present in SAS programming environment. So for instance, I have taken one statement called drop statement to exclude. Drop statement will be used to exclude variables from output SAS dataset. So if you see the syntax is just look like this: drop on variable list specified by separated by spaces. So you can use a drop statement in data step and proc step. So here there is one example for drop statement. I'm creating one data set inventory by using external file. Here I don't require purchase and repair variable information. So by avoiding these variables, I have mentioned drop, purchase and repair separated by spaces. So my output data set doesn't have a purchase and repair information. So in real SAS, how it works. So I am creating one data set called drop underscore exp by using SAS help.classes. In SAS help.classes, we have a different variables, name, age, sex, height, and weight. But height and weight I don't require to create my output data set. So how can I do that? So I used a drop statement here to omit height and weight information. So my output data set drop underscore exp created without height and weight information. Coming to the presentation. So there is one more statement called a keep statement. Keep statement which include the variables in an output data set. The keep statement, it is vice versa to drop statement. If you want to keep a particular variables in our output data set, you just need to mention keep and variable list separated by the spaces. When exactly we have to use keep statement? So when you want to create a data set from 100 variables and you just need to create 2 variables and 98 variables should be dropped. In that case, drop statement is a not good programming technique, because if you mention a drop statement, you have to mention 98 variables. But if you use a keep statement, you just need to mention 2 variables so that it will reduce your program code. So here I created one dataset called keep underscore exp by using SAS help.classes class. I have mentioned only 2 variables called name and age. So my output dataset created with only two variables called name and age. Coming to the presentation. So here one more example for keep statement. So I'm creating one data set called average from one external file. Here I don't require variables other than name and age. So that's why I have mentioned keep name and age separated by the spaces. So my output dataset contains only two variables, which is a name and age. There are more variety of statements are available in SAS, and it shall be discussed in regular classes. SAS dataset options. Definition of options. Dataset options specify action that apply only to the dataset where they appears. So by using dataset options, you can rename the variable, selecting particular observation, you can drop the variable, and you can create a passwords to the input datasets. If you see the syntax of options in here option is equal to variable list or a specified task. So if you see examples here, I am keeping the variables by using keep dataset option followed by equal to, keep is equal to variable list separated by the spaces, and drop option and renaming option. For instance, I have taken one option called rename option. So rename option will change the variable name. So if you see the syntax here, rename followed by equal to, and the variable old name is equal to new name. By using rename option, dataset option, you can change more than one variable name in a same data statement. If you see the syntax, it's look like this. Data 2, I am creating one data set called 2 by using one data set. In one data set, I have a variable called x. So here I am renaming x variable into keys. If you see here, I'm creating one data set drop underscore ex1 by using sashelp.classes class. Here CLSS class, I have a variable called age. So I am renaming age into student underscore age. So my output data set contains variable called student underscore age other than age variable. Coming to the presentation, remaining dataset options shall be discussed in regular classes. Thanks for watching. For more information about SAS online trainings or to register for SAS course, please mail to rp.sistrainer@gmail.com, or you can visit the below our website. Goodbye.